What is up, y'all? I am hosting again. This is Aaron Cass. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you want. We just put up a YouTube as well, trying to get that going. But we are on That's My Sports, and we have a guest that we've had on before, and I couldn't believe we were getting him again because he was destroying Hollywood Ray. But this is another Ray Lynn. So what's going on, man?
What's up, man? Appreciate y'all having me back home. He not going to be too happy with you saying that, but I don't mind it.
Oh, I don't mind it either. After that episode, the first one we did with you, I was like, yo, we need him back on. So the NBA All-Star Weekend, came and went. Did you feel like the All-Star Weekend was like from the past where it was like more exciting? Or do you just think that it needs like an adjustment? Because I feel like this All-Star game was just bogus. Like almost 200 points. No one was playing defense. Like even Kobe Bryant said that's what the All-Star game should be, is like the biggest pickup game in the world.
So it's kind of interesting, man. The entire weekend as a whole was what it was. It's entertainment. People cry about the dunk contest every year, and then they still watch it every year. The 3-point contest is always exciting because it's just seeing who can outshoot who. As far as the game, I'm kind of indifferent about it, man. It is entertainment. People want to see, like if Steph Curry is playing, they want to see him shoot those 30-foot bombs, right? They want to see guys dunk at the same time and I saw, it's funny, the video you're talking about, it was circulating today on social media where Kobe's kind of like, it's the biggest pickup game in the world. And he referenced UCLA, and I was thinking about that, man. When you remember when him and Harden was playing at the big league in it's in California somewhere.
All the Drew League?
The Drew League, right? All the pros go play there. Like when Kobe and Harden played against each other, that was a big thing. You know what I'm saying? Like dudes actually hoop. Professional players go to the Drew League and play harder than they do in the All-Star game. You know what I mean? So I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, these guys don't want to play defense. But at the same time, it's like they're not even playing basketball, man. Even back in the day with the Pro Bowl, it's like, we're not going to hit hard. I'm going to cover a little bit, but we ain't trying to hurt each other. Like the All-Star game now is a walking layup line, 3-point shootout. Just let you do what you want to do. Let me do what I want to do. Like that's not even real basketball. So I get where a lot of fans are kind of disappointed in that. And if that's how it's going to continue and it's continue to get worse, like where when a guy scored 55, you don't feel like he really broke a record. You feel like 47 of them were So, yeah, I'm not big on what they're doing with the All-Star game these days.
I mean, not to mention you had you had Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum one-on-one, everyone just watching them.
First off,
like,
that was probably the best part of the whole game. And honestly, like that stuff like that, with the exception of how, like the way they did it, it was like it didn't happen within the flow of basketball. It was literally like 8 people standing to the side watching them, which was kind of weird. But those moments in the All-Star game used to be the best part. You know what I'm saying? I recall the All-Star game where LeBron had the ball at the end and Kobe kind of, hiked his shorts up ready to play D and LeBron didn't shoot it. And Kobe like, come on. You know what I mean? Like those moments where, you get the 2 best players, when Magic and Mike won that in the All-Star game some years ago, or, Zeke and Max, like, you kind of look for those matchups and they've taken that away. So that was probably the most interesting part where there's no longer East and West. They do this pick and team. So you get 2 teammates who get to go at it. I hate the way the other players just stood there, but it still was the most exciting part of the game. And I'm sure Hollywood Ray, wherever he was at, enjoyed watching 2 Boston Celtics kind of steal the show for a minute. So,
oh God, yeah, he's probably talking about it for like 20 minutes straight, how great it was in the future. Now, this also story has been circling around. Mac McClung, who is now a Philadelphia 76er, but he was in the G League before dunk contest. Everyone's saying that he pretty much ruined the dunk contest now because a, quote, YT person won it and not like a Kenyon Martin Jr. or anything like that. So did he ruin the dunk contest because no one else wants to do it? Or?
Well, okay, so let me backtrack. You said he ruined it because what again?
Because he is white. He's a YT person.
Well, no, that's not why, because we've seen that before. Oddly enough, me as a sports fan, the year that I tell people I always love sports, but my year as like coming into like being a fanatic of the NBA was 96. And that was the rookie game with Damon Stoudemire, Michael Finley, Joe Smith, McDyess, Garnett, right? And the dunk contest that year, Brent Berry won it. So like I've seen a white guy win the dunk contest before. That's not it. And Mac McClung got hopped. I have a bigger problem with him being a G leaguer and winning it because he shouldn't have been in the contest in the first place. Right now, as far as him, he had the narrative built up before the contest started. Like you said, he's a white guy. He's short. Their dunks always look better. And he's a G leaguer. He had every underdog narrative going for him to the point where you want to pull for him. But then he went out there and actually performed. He nailed every dunk on the first try. They were really good dunks. They were creative. And, he's short, he bow-legged, he pigeon, like he got all the flair. All his stuff looked good when he do it. So as far as him being in it, he deservingly won it. All the 50s he got were deserving 50s. My problem is he shouldn't have been there. I feel like they called him up just to put him in a dunk contest. He ain't played all year. They called him up just for that purpose. He's going to go right back down in 2 weeks when this two-way contract is over.
Ooh. Now, I got two questions. I know one has to do with your Lakers, but this also with this person. A lot have been swirling around, too, that LeBron James also ruined the dunk contest because he didn't want it. He doesn't want to participate, I should say. And now because he never did, that you don't see any other stars like the Zions. John Morant publicly said he's not doing it ever. Like, did he also ruin it in a sense because we've been getting all these like Jericho Sims of the worlds and dunk contests and all that?
So the thing is, you've always had those guys, right? I mean, as a fan, yes, I've always wanted to see LeBron do it, especially with the kind of stuff he's done in game, right? But if you ask yourself, who are the best contest dunkers over the last 40 years? They're not stars. Like Jason Richardson, Levine, depending on how you feel about him. He's not like a superstar. He's not a face of the league type guy. Aaron Gordon.
Nate Robinson.
Yeah, Nate Robinson. I'm trying to think of the kid that was in Seattle. Desmond Mason, right? J.R. Smith and Josh Smith were both in it. Like, guys like that have always been the better dunkers. Harold Miner, Isaiah Ryder, right? Like the last superstar to be that guy in the dunk contest was when it was Mike and Neek. Those guys were like superstars at the time. But the only reason it's a big deal for LeBron is because everything he does in his career is always going to be compared to Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan did the dunk contest numerous years. LeBron doesn't do it. Therefore, it's a problem, right?
Kobe did it.
But here's the funny thing about Kobe. When Kobe did it, he was an 18-year-old kid out of high school and nobody knew what he was going to become. So he wasn't a superstar when he did it. Once he became a superstar, he never did it again. Right? So, I do think, though, now, as far as if people want to say he ruined it in terms of him being a superstar and a guy that everybody wanted to see do it, that's just like the whole changing up teams thing. If the best player in the league and the guy who's the face of the league sets a precedent that it's okay to do this, right? It's okay to switch teams if you want to. Oh, LeBron can switch and go to Miami? Well, KD says that makes it okay for me to go to Golden State, right? Kawhi says that makes it okay for me to go to LA and call Paul George to team up with, right? Like when another guy sets the precedent, who's the unquestioned face of the NBA, when he does it. So if LeBron says, I don't have to do the dunk contest, oh, it's okay. I'm a star. I don't have to do it. LeBron don't have to do it. So in that sense, I can see where people would say he ruined it, right? This is what it is, right? Of course we want to see Zion Williamson. Of course we want to see John Morant. Those are guys we want to see in the dunk contest. But yes, LeBron has set a precedent that as a superstar, it's okay to not do it.
Well, it's a good thing you talked about like the superstars and all that. So I know you're a Lakers fan, correct?
Yeah, man.
Ooh, we say that pretty gingerly. And listen, I'm a Rockets fan, the diehard. It's like Steve Franchise, Yao Ming, Tina Mobley, all that. So
listen, man, I know we audio only, but you can see this, man. I can feel your pain as a Rockets fan.
I'm putting this up on video. Don't you worry. So how do you see your Lakers during the rest of the season after the All-Star break with all the trades and all that? And would you move on from Anthony Davis, aka Glass Man, in the offseason?
Man, it's really tough because, right, I'm a huge fan of return. When you talk about trading a player, right, what return can you get? What's your ROI, right? What's the return on your investment? And you can't get enough back for Anthony Davis. Not enough that makes sense. He's that talented of a player. Like when he's on the floor, when he's healthy, which that's a big if, right? It's funny. A lot of the superstars are health concerns. Him, Kawhi, KD, right? These guys are always out, but we only talk about some of them. But when he's on the floor, Anthony Davis is clearly one of the 5 most talented players in the league. At worst, top 10, right? There's some really talented guys you can make a case for. You start talking Embiid, Joker, Giannis, LeBron, Steph. It's a lot of talented guys. But AD's top 10 easily. So it's like, when he's on the floor, he's that guy. But if he's never on the floor, what do you do with that, right? I mean, LeBron's on the team, so you're championship or bust. There's no we make the playoffs, it's a good season. In fact, it's the Lakers. It's always championship or bust. We don't do just make the playoffs. Same with the Celtics for that matter, right? Like when you got that many banners hanging in the rafters, it's championship or bust. So it's kind of hard to move on from AD because you feel like when him and LeBron are on the court, that's a really good team still.
Well, I said it in the bubble that AD was their best player, but he was also healthy at the time. But like how Hollywood Ray says, is your best ability is your availability, and he's not really available this season. Plus, I always say this is LeBron's teams. He always constructs the way he wants it. And if they don't do well, it's like, oh, well, I did everything, but they didn't. So on and so forth.
Well, that's just kind of how I go playing with LeBron, man. I would say this. Anthony Davis is the first player in LeBron's entire career that was ever on a team with LeBron, and I thought he was the best player on the team. Like the bubble year, I thought Anthony Davis was the best player on the team, right? So again, man, when he's healthy, they got rid of the scapegoat. Nobody can blame Russ for the rest of the year. I think D'Angelo Russell does fit a lot better as far as his skill set and the things he's capable of doing on the basketball court, starting off with shooting, right? A guy like LeBron James has to have shooters around him, right? You compare it to Kobe, you compare it to Mike, a guy that needs space to operate like that. You need a de facto point guard. Not a guy to get you in your sets and get guys shots. No, you just need to be able to defend other ones. You need to be able to shoot, i.e. Mario Chalmers, i.e. Kyrie Irving, who can score with the best of them, but he's not a facilitate, get guys in their spots kind of guy, right? Just get me buckets, and your job is to defend the other one, right? Like, I don't need you to run the offense. I got that. So now you bring in D'Angelo Russell, who's capable of kind of doing both, but he's having a career year from three. He's shooting like 38% from three, right? So now you have a little more space, and you got Malik Beasley off. Like this team with the moves they made, Roy Hachimura, I don't know if I said that right, D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley around a LeBron James and Anthony Davis, just a way better look than what it was to start the season. So if they can string together some wins, I've said this when they made the trades, you don't want to be the top 4 seed that plays them in the first round.
Oh.
I saw that you made that status. And at first I was kind of like, I was like, is this the Laker fan talking? Because listen, as much as I joke with you, I always think of you as one of the most logical fans I know. So I was just like, is he speaking from like he's a Laker fan saying you don't want to see them? But yeah, I was saying this last year too. Like I think when it might have been 2 years ago before they interfaced with Phoenix, I was like, Phoenix don't want to see them, and it may be that same case now. Like Phoenix still may not want to see them in the first round if LA is the 7th, 8th seed. So Phoenix becomes the number 1. Like you may not want to see them, but I wanted to go back to the Anthony Davis point because yes, in the bubble, you're right. He was definitely someone who he dominated that Denver series. Like they don't win that Denver series without him. Like the game winner, he was getting whatever he wanted. But my thinking of why I put this question on there when we were talking about what we were going to ask you. If you're not going to win the championship, right? And once again, that is a foregone conclusion, but obviously they've been in the bottom half of the West for a majority of the year. So from 13 to 11 to 10 or whatever, and back down to 13. So I thought it should have at least been entertained of the Anthony Davis move. Because once again, that's you're not trading LeBron. Like the fact that people was, trade Bron, like are you for real? Like that's not like that's not happening. So I still think they should have did the Buddy Hield trade if they could have. But I think that extension with Miles Turner kind of took that off the table because they weren't going to pay Miles Turner $30 million a year, being next to AD. So, but I think for the shooting standpoint, I felt like if that Indiana trade was there, Miles Turner came on the Wolves pod and said, "Hey, they want me. I want to be in LA. Make it happen." So, like, I don't know why Rob Pelinka didn't pull the trigger on that. He redeemed himself with getting the moves that he made at the deadline to an extent. And you may have said this already, so forgive me if you didn't say if you did say this already. I think Jared Vanderbilt's the X factor for what y'all do going forward the rest of this year. I think he's the real deal. I think that he's going to be able to spell AD when AD needs a rest. He's an underrated playmaker. He's not really coming to his offense yet, but he's on his way, in my opinion. I think that was a very big time move to get him in that trade. I think he's going to be awesome for y'all. So, do you feel that same way, or do you think someone else is going to be have a bigger impact?
That was a very sneaky part of everything was landing Vanderbilt and landing Mo Bamba. Was a very sneaky part of all of that, right? Because again, you talk about AD's health, and I did a blog on this some years ago. Anthony Davis is responsible for a bunch of really mediocre centers getting paid over the years, right? Mm-hmm. Because he runs around with this idea that he doesn't want to play the five. Look throughout the course of his career, every team he's been to, he's only been to 2 teams. But go look at how every year New Orleans kept signing centers that weren't that good. Omar Asik got a crazy contract. Emeka Okafor got a crazy contract. Then they went and got Boogie Cousins. He comes to L.A. What does L.A. do? Think about who's all been on L.A. since he's been there. Dwight Howard's been there. JaVale McGee's been there. Marc Gasol has been there. DeAndre Jordan has been there. Andre Drummond has been there. Now they go pick up Mo. He doesn't want to play the 5. Right, so everywhere he goes, teams just go get a bunch of 7-footers to run out there on the floor next to Anthony Davis so he can feel better about playing the 4, right? Okay, good to go. So we go get Mo Bamba. That's going to pay dividends because that's where Anthony Davis feels comfortable. He feels comfortable with another guy on the floor playing the 5. When they close games, it should be the front court of LeBron, AD, and Roy Hachimura. That's who should close games. Yeah. With D'Angelo Russell and probably Malik Beasley closing games. And then depending on if somebody got the hot hand, like if Troy Brown's playing good or Schroeder's playing good, I can see you swapping one of those guys out. But it's always going to be D'Lo, LeBron, and AD and whoever, right? But
aren't you forgetting your white chocolate and Austin Reeves?
Austin Reeves probably just lost his minutes.
Not being able to shoot. No way. You need to be out there.
Yeah, so it's only one basketball and it's only so many minutes, right? So we know who getting the minutes in the front court, but now you have again. I mean, they got rid of Westbrook, they got rid of Patrick Beverly, right? But you still have Schroeder and D'Lo who are going to eat up all your minutes at the 1, right? Right. Malik Beasley's probably going to get the majority of your minutes at the 2. I think Troy Brown is better. With LeBron playing the 3, Gabriel probably going to get some minutes at the 2, right? They like Austin Reeves, but I think come when it matters, he going to lose his minutes. Just what I think. Like, he kind of puts you in the mind of Alex Caruso in the sense that he's more like fan favorite, get the people going kind of than he is like a super talented guy. Like, he can play. He's in the NBA. But, like, I don't think Austin Reeves is going to be a difference maker if this team is going to make a run. I don't think Austin Reeves is going to be like, the Lakers are making a run and Austin Reeves is playing 18 to 20 minutes a game. I don't think that'll be the case.
So do you think that the Lakers are going to be a dark horse in the West, or do you have another team that is better than them? And also, do you think that LeBron will be MVP of the year just because he's a scoring title champ, or is it still going to be either the Joker or Giannis? Or
is LeBron gonna be what?
The MVP of the league? Just because he got the scoring title?
No, not even top. LeBron won't be top. LeBron won't be on anybody's ballot. And if he is, people should be ashamed of themselves. Like, the MVP right now is a 3-man race, right? It's Tatum, it's Jokic, and it's Giannis. That's it. And earlier in the year, before they got hurt, Steph and KD was in that conversation, right? Warriors couldn't win enough games for it to be serious. Memphis was playing good, but then Ja fell off. Phoenix was playing good. Then Booker got hurt. So now it again, typically around this time of year, All-Star break, only about 20 some odd games left, that those people fade themselves out. You can throw Embiid in that conversation too, but I think the steam isn't there for him to. Oh, Luka too. Luka's in the conversation, right? Luka and Embiid will probably round out most people's ballots at 4 and 5, and the MVP race will come down to Tatum, Jokic, and Giannis. And Jokic may win it, averaging a triple-double, right?
So let me ask you this. So I've put up a tweet earlier today that everyone's praising Jokic. He's going to get his third MVP, doing triple dubs. But Russ Westbrook did that for 3 years straight with OKC and didn't win 3 straight MVPs.
Well, so you got to remember, a couple of things. Jokic's also the number 1 seed in the West, right? So if you look at the history of the award, right, they only broke the rule a couple of times, with Jokic and Russ being 2 of them. If you go back to 1988, Michael Jordan won MVP as a 3 seed, right?
Yep.
From there up to Russell Westbrook, every single MVP was a number 1 or 2 seed in the East or West. So the award has always been best player on one of the best teams. You had to be a 1 or 2 seed to really even qualify, right? And the only other time somebody I think was not a 1 or 2 seed or didn't have the first or second best record was Nash's second MVP. And he was in the same division as that. That was back today. The seeding was weird. Dallas was the 4th seed, but they had the second best record. Whoever was 1 had a better record than them. So Dallas got the 4th seed based off division standings. But other than that, it's always been a 1 or 2 seed. And then Russ won it as a 6 seed because he averaged a triple-double. Then Jokic won it as a 6 seed last year, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because once Russ opened the door, now voters go, oh, you can do it at that seed. But now Jokic has the numbers and his team is winning. And for all the talk about Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and what Denver's going to look like when those guys come back, neither one of those guys have played at a star level. So not only is Denver the 1 seed, not only is he averaging a triple-double, he has the narrative on his side that he's still doing it as a one-man show.
Right.
He doesn't have a second star.
Yeah, I mean, to me, well, yeah, I mean, and it should be Murray, obviously, because we see him do in the past, but he's still not back to what he was, pre-injury, which is understandable. I just think that people are going to get voters fatigue. I think that he would deserve it if he gets it. I'm fine with that. I don't care for Tatum to get it as a Celtics fan. I know that's blasphemous up here because it's like, oh, he should be MVP. Look, the only MVP I'm concerned with is the one that is given in June. If Tatum gets it, awesome, fine. I was there on the floor with Draymond Green yelling in my ear, "I got 4, motherfucker." I'm good. I'm good. I want Tatum to hold up the Finals MVP with a confetti falling, saying, "And your 2023 NBA World Champions are your Boston Celtics." I don't care about saying that his mama was always there and his mama's MVP. That means nothing to me. Just win in June, so I could talk shit to some people that's been in my ear. That's all I want.
I would say this much, man, and it just speaks to the level of talent and the kind of things guys are out there doing on the floor right now. Like, imagine we just talked about Tatum. We just talked about Jokic, right?
Yep.
And for all intents and purposes, they could very well finish 1 and 2. Embiid's averaging 33, 9, and 4.
Crazy.
Right?
Crazy.
Giannis is averaging 32, 12, and 5, and his team is on a 12-game win streak.
Yeah.
And they could very well finish 3 and 4, or maybe even 5. Luka's averaging like 33, 9, and 9. Like, it's unbelievable what guys are doing. And statistically, of the top 5 guys, if you're talking Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, and Luka, statistically, they're all better than Tatum. Yeah. And Tatum's having a career year.
Right.
Career high in points per game, career high in rebounds, career high from the field. Like, he is having a phenomenal year, right? Yep. And statistically, Tatum's storyline is his case, right? Best player on the best team in the league. They've had the best record all year, in spite of the turmoil they had, losing their head coach right before the start of the season. Rookie interim head coach just dropped his interim tag. So those are the things that work in his favor. What works against his favor is he got a guy on his team averaging 27 a night.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you know, I like Tatum.
Fault, though, but I mean,
Right. I mean, but you got to think, like, how often is it a guy wins MVP with a player of that caliber playing at that level? Even when Shaq won, Kobe hadn't evolved to what he was. And once he did, neither one of them won while they played together. Right. It's rare that a guy wins MVP, you know, when KD and Steph came together.
But even because, like you said, people are going to make a bid for Luka. And I know they just got him in the trade, but Kyrie can get 30 a night.
But again, what will help Luka's case? Like, if I'm a voter and I'm looking at you know, the level of help that you have, right? And I look at what the Dallas Mavericks have been able to do so far this year, right? They're sitting at 31-29 right now. Let me see. Dallas is sitting at the 6th seed, right? On a 3-game losing streak, mind you. But I look at most of that and go, he did this for most of the year with no Kyrie, right? So if he had Kyrie for the last 20, I go, well, Tatum had Brown all year, right? I go, Giannis had Drew all year. Embiid had Harden pretty much all year. So if you look at the if you're talking about having or not having help, Luka wins that. That becomes the Luka and Jokic conversation, right? Who had the least amount of help? And Luka's averaging 33 points, 8.8 rebounds, 8.1 assists. Like, I mean, that's unbelievable. But I don't think he's going to win it. And you're right. I said early in the season, I've had Tatum as my favorite all year. He still is my favorite, best player on the best team. He's having a career year. He's playing both sides of the ball, and he's playing like a monster. You thought they were going to come out with this hangover, and they haven't done nothing to beat the brakes off people all year. But Giannis is making a strong push, man. That 12-game winning streak is looking, you know.
Yeah, we almost
they could very well. This could come down to the last week of the season who has the best record or something like that, man.
It will. I think the Celtics see them one more time in March. I think March 30th, back out there at Fiserv. So, yeah, like, I think that would be a defining moment there as well, because there'll only be like 4 or 5 games after that. Yeah, but like I said, I just, to me, every name we mentioned would deserve it if they win it. But like I said, just for me, like I said, just up here, we don't. I'm like, well, now I don't care about the MVP award. Like I said, if he gets it, great. I want them to win the finals.
This is clearly, I mean, it's not even close. This is shaping up as the second best MVP race of all time, and it may be number one when it's all said and done.
But what was the first one too?
60. Have you ever went and looked at 62?
No, I thought you might have said 90 with Barkley and Magic and all them. And
I'm gonna read something to you. I gotta find it. I think it was 62.
But was it probably Russell, Chamberlain?
So Russell won it, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
These are the people that didn't win MVP in 1962. Will Chamberlain averaged 50 and 26.
Crazy.
Allegedly.
Oscar Robertson averaged 31, 13, and 11. Elgin Baylor averaged 38, 19, and 5. Jerry West, those are video game numbers. And then Jerry West averaged like regular good numbers for now. Like Jerry West averaged 31, 8, and 5. Bob Pettit averaged 31, 19, and 4. Those are your top 6.
Wow.
The guy that finished 7th averaged 37 and 6. Like, I mean, that's
not bad for plumbers.
Seriously.
Well, I mean,
that should get me hot. That argument gets me hot. You play who you play against. Those are phenomenal numbers, regardless of era.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of you. What you do as a player, you go out and dominate the guys that are on the court, right? You can't control when you were born. My beef with some of the players of yesteryear isn't necessarily the idea that people were plumbers, right? I like when my beef is when people say, well, it was only 8 teams. In my mind, if it's only 8 teams, right? To me, it's actually harder to win. Like when people talk about Bill Russell and say, well, it was only 8 teams, it makes it harder to win because the talent is less spread out. Right. Like right now in the NBA, if you go, okay, this team got 3 stars, that team got 3 stars, if it's only 8 teams and you got all the best players in the world, no matter what you think of them, they're the best players in the world, and it's only 8 teams. Every team probably got 2, 3 really, really. Yeah. Like if you go look at those teams Wilt was playing on, a lot of those guys we may not know. Like the year Wilt averaged 50 and 27. He had Paul Arizin on his team averaging 22 a night. You get what I'm saying? Like everybody had talented players. So I think that gets kind of lost in the. I mean, like
the only argument, and this might be a counter, I guess, to something. I mean, that era they won 8 straight. Red Auerbach got the best black players, and he had the best white players. Like Bill Sharman, Barb Cousy, Tommy Heinsohn had 37-23 in the finals game 7.
But you know why we think they're the best players?
It's crazy.
You know why we think they're the best players? Because they won. Right? Like you got to think of how we remember players, right? Like we think about how we remember role players based on their team winning, right? Like for me, Manu Ginobili has now become way overrated because of the Spurs' success. Like if you look at the numbers he put up, if you look at who he was as a player, like is Manu Ginobili even on Paul Pierce's level? No. Is Manu Ginobili a better player than Antoine Walker? I'm using Celtics on purpose, right? No.
I said no on that.
No. Paul Pierce, no, but with Antoine, it's debatable.
I don't even think it's debatable. If people remember the version of Antoine Walker that when you guys went to the Western Conference Finals in the early 2000s, I think it was, right?
Yeah, when we faced New Jersey, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it was Antoine Walker, Paul Pierce, and
Kenny Anderson, Tony Anderson, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? That team, man, it's guys that I think they didn't perform at that level, but guys that I think that were more talented than Manu Ginobili, like Derek Anderson, like Ron Mercer, right? He wasn't more talented than those guys. He just played for San Antonio. So when you play for a team that wins, i.e. a Derek Fisher, right? Your name is going to be remembered more because it's associated with winning. So when we talk about those Celtics players, all those guys got in the Hall of Fame because they were constantly winning. They weren't better than a lot of guys. Like go look at like those guys. I mean,
well, the four no doubters is or 5. Well, yeah, I think okay. Cousy, no doubter. Russell, no doubter. Havlicek, no doubter, and then Heinsohn is no doubter. Everybody knows you may say debatable, but those are the 4 no doubters.
Hold on. Sam Jones is a no doubter.
Okay, so 5. So okay, 5 no doubters. So
I'm bigger on him.
So 5 out of your 12 guys are. I mean,
but when you say 5 out of your 12, those guys that like there was like you know what I'm saying. They played over. Like if you go look, Havlicek best days was after all those guys left.
Yeah.
When like he was like the 6th man or like the the young guy coming in. Havlicek with that team is kind of like what you remember Barkley with the 76ers in the 80s. When they were still there. When Barkley came along, he wasn't that. He became that after those guys left. So, my only thing about the Celtics, man, and they're winning, I went back and looked at a lot of those years, man. Them guys won a lot of game 7s, bruh. Like they won when it mattered. You know what I mean? Like I went and looked. They won. I mean, there was a lot of series that win 7 games with those guys, man. And they just won. So
yeah. I mean, I said that, and that should be, and like I said, it's awesome to see. Like I said, my mom grew up in the 60s, so she would tell me stories about how, I said it's funny because it wasn't, they was smacking people, and the Boston Garden was not selling out. It was selling for fights. It was selling when Bruno Sammartino would come with the old WWF, but they weren't even selling out games, and they were smacking people on the regular. I'm like, that's wild to me. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I think what's crazy is that people think LeBron James is the GOAT.
What's crazy about it?
Scoring champ. Even though the real scoring champ only made 1 3 in his life.
First off, it's not just that he's the scoring champ, and I don't even want to get. I just left the bowling alley, and a guy walked up to me. He knows I talk sports. He knows I cover sports, and he goes, "Man, I've been on Facebook. Why is all everybody want to talk about is LeBron versus Mike?" And I said, "Bro, I'm kind of nauseated with it. Like I'm over it." Mm-hmm. My issue is statements like the one Aaron just made, right? Like if you think Michael Jordan is the GOAT, fine.
I actually think Kareem at this point.
I've had Kareem as the GOAT for a very long time. I've had Kareem like for the past couple of years. I've had Kareem as 1, LeBron at 2, Mike at 3, right? And people think people think it's crazy. So here's the thing: if you think Mike's the GOAT, you ain't tripping. That's my GOAT tier. I don't think anybody else has a case. I won't even entertain an argument about anybody else. But when people act like LeBron has no case, that's ridiculous. Like when you're like, he has no business in this conference. That's crazy. Yes, he does. He very much has a case. Like this man's career is unparalleled, right? It's unparalleled. What he is doing, and you can call it longevity stats all you want to. If it was easy, everybody else would have did it. Like, you look at what some, like the guys who are the kings of longevity, guys like Robert Parrish. Look at what Kareem was by like year 17. Look at what Tim Duncan was doing by the time he won his last championship, averaging 13, 14 points per game, right? Look what, I mean, Kobe's was injury. I think had Kobe stayed healthy, he still would have been playing at a high level at year 18, 19. I genuinely believe that.
I mean, you could say the same with Mike, where he went to college for 3 years, and then his second year in the pro, he broke his foot.
We can't say the same with Mike. Mike retired twice. He quit. We can't say the same with him.
But he got to the 30,000 mark in less games.
We know what he did. Mike was a scorer. Mike was going to give you 30 a game. I'm simply saying, you Michael Jordan apologists who have him on this pedestal, y'all literally make up narratives about him to bolster his already impeccable legacy, right? Yep. Michael Jordan was so great, and had he not retired, he'd have won 8 straight. Where do we get that? How do we know that?
I actually disagree. I think the Houston Rockets could have taken those Bulls still. They could have still been back-to-back champs.
But I'm just simply talking about the idea that what we do, what fans do who love Michael Jordan is, we excuse all his failures. We bloviate, right, when it comes to his successes. And then every make-believe scenario possible, we do it in his favor. Had he not retired, he'd have done this. Had he played longer, he'd be the scoring chip. If he wanted to, remember that 8-game stretch where he averaged 11 assists? If he wanted to, he could have averaged a triple-double. And Mike, if Mike would have played in this era, I'm pretty sure he'd have worked on his three-point game and been better. Don't nobody talk about the fact he had like 4 straight seasons shooting under 20% from three. He has the lowest recorded round in the NBA three-point contest history, making 5. But people swear that he would have worked on his game and been a great three-point shooter. Why? Because we bloviate over Michael Jordan and just it had Mike was perfect. There's no way. What you know that's where finals record came from? Yep. Because it was the easiest way to excuse Michael Jordan's failures. We're not going to talk about him losing in the first round to Terry Cummings and the Milwaukee Bucks. We're not going to talk about him losing in the first round and getting smacked by Boston. We're not going to talk about him losing in the second round to the Pistons. We're not going to talk about him losing in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Pistons. We're going to jump straight to when he started winning. Yep. I'll give this example. If I was at a party and I walked up to 20 girls and asked for their phone number, and 15 of them told me no, and I got 5. And when we leave, I tell y'all, and I asked 5 girls for their phone numbers, I got all 5. I was 5 for 5. Bro, I saw you talk to at least 20. No, bro, I was 5 for 5. That's what y'all do with Michael Jordan's career. Y'all say he was 6 for 6. Clearly ignoring he played 9 other seasons. Yep. Like, what do you mean? Well, he never lost on the biggest stage. Y'all say he never lost on the biggest stage. Y'all say even in college, he never lost the big game. What about the other 2 years he played in college where he didn't make it to the big game? He didn't lose on the big stage because he didn't get to the big stage. Yep. It's almost like when people go, LeBron's finals record is bad. So you're punishing a guy for making it further before he lost. Mike loses in the first round, don't count against his finals record. LeBron wins 3 playoff series, then loses to a juggernaut team like the Warriors, and people go, another loss in the finals. Would it have been better season for him if he'd have lost in the second round? How does that make sense?
Talk to him.
Listen, man, bro, if you
I'm with you. I'm with you. Keep going.
This Kobe Bryant town up in the sports report around Pay House. Land. But as a fan of basketball, right? If you think Michael Jordan's the GOAT, I don't think you're crazy. Just don't think somebody's crazy that has LeBron as the GOAT, right? Because what he's doing, what he's done for the game of basketball, very well has a case for the GOAT. If he didn't have a case, people would still be arguing it every day.
And I'll say this too, right? He's the next athlete that I could see his shoes still selling 15, 20 years down the line too.
Nope, they won't.
You don't think so?
No, because somebody could walk up to somebody in a pair of LeBron James right now. Nobody know they was LeBron James. People that wear them know they don't have nothing will ever. And then if fans,
no, I'm not saying he'll surpass Mike. I'm just saying.
I just mean I don't think anybody will care about him. There's not a single pair of LeBrons that ever came out that are anything remotely close to what the Jordan brand has been.
Just the South Beach 8s. That's it. That's the only thing.
And I'm telling you right now, the greatest run of shoes in the history of all time. The 10s and 11s and 12s, you can even go back to 8 and 9.
Don't forget the 13s.
Yeah, in fact, I meant 11, 12, 13. 11, 12, 13. I wasn't even a fan of the 10s. 11, 12s, and 13s. Greatest runner shoes all time.
Hell
Right?
yeah.
LeBron can't match it. In fact, there are other Nikes that to this day, like I can name 3 or 4 Nikes that I think 20 years from now will still be more popular, more wearable, more like they could drop phone posits today. People gonna line up and buy them.
Yeah.
The 2K4 Hirachis, people will line up and buy them.
Wasn't that his first shoe though?
Who?
Wasn't that Bron's first shoe?
No. Truth be told, the Hirachis were more Kobe shoe, right? They
Gotcha, okay.
People refer to them as Kobe's. It's hilarious. I'm looking at. I got a fat head on my wall, and he's wearing them on the fat head. But I don't think LeBron's legacy will be the impact he had on the game, and then what he does off the court. Like so, when you talk about when people talk GOAT and they bring this non-basketball related stuff in, right? When people talk about the Jordan brand, LeBron fans are going to retort with what I believe, with the school, with what he's done as a philanthropist, right? Like, which I don't think any of that stuff matters. As far as just basketball, I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the most accomplished basketball player in the history of the game, right? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Michael Jordan fans are going to be like, nobody cares about his high school and college. But I bet you if Mike went undefeated in high school and college,
exactly, yeah,
about it, right? So,
that's why I make the case for Kareem, because it's like he didn't have the 3-point line back then, and when he did have it, he shot the 1-3. He pretty much did the sky hook most of the time, and like he had it for 30 some odd years.
I mean,
that's why I think he's the GOAT.
First off, I got no issues with you saying Kareem is the GOAT. I just said he's the most accomplished player. I do think the final feather in the cap for LeBron James was breaking the scoring record, right? When people act like, oh, well, he's the GOAT because no, not because of the scoring record, because he has X amount of all NBAs, because he's number 1 in points and top 5 in assists, because he does have 4 MVP. He does have 4 NBA championships. He is one of like 6 players with a scoring title and an assist title, right? He does have 2 gold medals. He did go to 10 straight or whatever. I mean, like his resume is pretty legit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like
right.
It's those 3 guys. And breaking that scoring record, man, a record that we all thought wouldn't be broke. I mean, it's equivalent to somebody hitting 756 home runs. You know,
I still think Hank Aaron's a GOAT, but that's for another day.
Yeah, but that's my point, though. That's what I'm saying. If somebody, right, and notice I said 756 because a lot of purists don't even respect.
Yeah, no, that's him. But
Bonds.
I don't respect the Barry Bonds because we know he swelled up real quick in his mid-30s.
So we can get back to whatever y'all line of questioning is. I will say this: I never have a problem with the Barry Bonds thing, only because Major League Baseball knew what was going on, but it was good for ratings, so they let it happen. Right?
Thank you. That's all.
Major League Baseball knew, fans knew. They knew when Sosa was doing it. They knew when McGuire was doing it. Canseco wrote a book when everybody was doing it. The ratings was good, so nobody cared. Sammy Sosa went from a regular dude to the record was 61. People don't talk about the fact that Sammy Sosa hit 63 times.
Sure did. Yeah.
3 times. He hit 66 the year Bonds hit the year McGuire hit 70, and then he came back in 65 2 years later.
Crazy.
I mean, nobody talks about it. And then Bonds goes from a guy who never hits over 45 to hitting 73. And his head just got big as a watermelon. We all knew. But nobody cared because it was good for ratings. When everybody's tuning in to see what this guy's going to do. And that's intentionally bumping him with people on base.
You tuned in to hear hits it high, hits it deep. Out of here. You tuned in for that. So I don't want to hear the answer to the word. It's like, well, because his head was as big as a watermelon, that he don't deserve to be the home run king. That's wild to me. That's a joke.
Even Hank Aaron said it before a few years ago that he doesn't really consider Barry Bonds a home run king.
Yeah, I expect him to say it, just like he's Kareem. I get it. That's fine. That's you can feel that way. He's the only one that can say that. I get that, but he's wrong. And it's just like. Barry's the guy. But I wanted to go back to what we were talking about, right? So when we speak about the GOAT and you talk about resumes, so is your criteria for the GOAT, is it about the resume or is it about the skill set or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of everything. I actually have a criteria is written down somewhere, right? And my problem with, and I'm gonna revert this back to Michael Jordan fans or people who have them as the GOAT. Again, it's not a crazy sentiment, but most of us who talk sports right now in 2023, most of us are old enough to have, like, we grew up on Michael Jordan, right? So what happens is GOAT was never a thing. Michael Jordan is great. And then he retires and people go, man, that's the greatest player I ever seen. And years go by and nobody really is in a position to threaten that, right? Even with Kobe, it was kind of like he's a carbon copy, right? And I'm a Kobe fan, but that
no one's denying that,
right? So then LeBron James comes along, right? And then by year 5, you knew he coming. You know what I'm saying? Like you just knew he was that good that you knew he was coming. And from that point, for the last 15 years, the debate then became this whole GOAT thing. What fans have done is, okay, I think Michael Jordan is the GOAT. So his resume is now the standard, which blows my mind. Think about it. That's what most people do. They look at LeBron's resume and go, well, he doesn't have 10 scoring titles. Since when do you need that to be the GOAT? He doesn't have 6 MVPs. Since when is that part of the criteria? He lost in the finals and he didn't. Michael Jordan isn't the gold standard. His resume is not the criteria for me, right? For me, it's a combination of a few things, right? Number one, talent, right? And how do you gauge talent? You gauge talent by statistics. If you're great, the numbers will be there, right? Nobody averaging 15 is going to be the GOAT, right? Your dude averaging 25, 26 for his career. Okay, now we talking, right? So the talent and the stats are going to be there. Longevity, right? You like, if it was just talent, Grant Hill would be in my top 5 all time. One of the best players I've ever seen in my life, right? You have to have done it, though, for a very, very long period of time. Then it's accomplishments / accolades. All that stuff matters to me. All-stars, all NBAs, all defense, scoring titles, MVPs, defense, all that stuff matters. Your resume, like you said. Then winning. I have winning so low on my list because it is very clear that winning is very much a team thing. Now, in basketball, as opposed to football, one guy can make such a difference. That's why when you look at the history of guys that have won, it's always the greats. You win with guys like Jordan. You win with guys like LeBron, with Steph Curry's, with Magic's, with Birds, with the Kings. You have to have one of those to win. The anomaly is the 2004 Pistons. Every other team had a superstar.
Right.
Every other single one, right? Giannis dropping 50 in the final. You have to have one of those guys. So, but it's also shown LeBron James, as great as he is, when he go up against a team that's better, he loses. Mike dropped 63 on your Celtics and couldn't win a game. So it goes to show your individual brilliance isn't the end-all be-all to winning. You got to get the right pieces around you. Kobe was great. Kobe's best individual years was probably 05 and 06, and the Lakers couldn't get it done. Well, 06 and 07. What happens? They bring Phil Jackson back. They go get Paul Gasol. Kobe's in the finals for 3 straight years. He ain't averaging 35 no more, but he in the finals. So winning is kind of low on my list, right? It's just, and that's it, man. It was one more. I have 5 things. But anyway, it's it. The 5th thing is kind of like the intangibles, right? The things that the immeasurable things, leadership, you know, all which is kind of, that's why it's so low, because that's where you get bias, right? The things that matter to you may not matter to somebody else. But I keep that consistent, man. Kobe's my favorite player ever, and I have him in a tier of 4, 5, and 6, right? I have Kobe in a tier with Magic and Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
You can argue all 3 of them. People always act like Kobe's so much better than Tim Duncan. He's flashy.
They're almost the same.
Their careers,
like accolade-wise.
And where because one, I'm a Kobe fan, so I can rationalize it to make him better. But what made Kobe better to me was, if I have to choose between the guy that's going to give me 20 and 10 or the guy that's going to give me 30, I'm taking the guy that's giving me 30 every single time, right? I want the guy that's going to give me 30. He needs less. He needs less people to do other stuff to win. Tim Duncan won a championship averaging 15 points, right? So
once he wasn't a man. When he was the man, he was giving what he needed to give.
But then, right? Even when he was the man, he had a final.
Kenny Martin knows. Kenny Martin knows.
Oh no, Kenny Martin knows. Ben Wallace knows. All the power forwards in the 2000s, no. Trust me. Chris Webber,
Yeah.
no. AG, no. Dirk, no. Joe Smith, no. Antonio McDyess, no. Rasheed Wallace, no.
Oh,
Zach
no,
Randolph,
yeah.
no. They all know. Amari Stoudemire, no. Right? Tim Duncan is like that. Very disrespected sometimes. That's why I make sure I always shout him out and keep him in my top 6. I put him right there with Kobe. Again, Kobe's my guy, so I'm always having him higher. And Kobe gets a nod to me because Tim Duncan never had the pressure of being the face of the league. Right? Kobe had that. Kobe lived up to something that nobody else could, right? When Mike left, the league was looking for another Mike. Everybody that came out of college that was between the height of 6'5" and 6'8" and could jump, they called him the next Mike. Jerry Stackhouse was the next Mike. Harold Miner was Baby Jordan. Vince Carter was the next Mike. Grant Hill was the next Mike. Nobody.
Shoot, they tried doing it with Andrew Wiggins, calling him Maple Jordan.
Right, facts. Right. But Grant Hill would have been the guy, in my opinion. But I mean,
Here's the funny thing. He wouldn't have been. You know why? I tell people this all the time. Grant Hill was LeBron light before LeBron.
That's fair.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I'll give you that.
Grant Hill was the hybrid. He was the hybrid of Magic Mike. Grant Hill was the guy that could get you 30, but he could also get you 7 assists and 8 rebounds. Like Grant Hill was like that in every single way, right? Again, injuries, being what it is, but yeah, man. So my criteria, I factor all those things in, and then I come out with a list. I even did a thing before, man. I'm so into it. I had a spreadsheet, and I assigned points for everything. An MVP was this many points. A championship was this many points. All NBA first team was this many. Second team was like a 5-3-1 kind of thing, right? And when I boiled it down, it was funny. What I had my list at, it kind of came out close to that. I think Kobe was 5th or something. I have Kobe 4th all time, but he was 5th or something like that. And Mike and Kareem was near the top. Now, this was years ago before LeBron had achieved a lot of things that he has now. But again, man, I have my GOAT tiers, LeBron, Mike, and Kareem. If you have any of them as the GOAT, I wouldn't even argue with you all day about it, because it ain't crazy. My issue becomes when fans go, LeBron has no case. That's stupid. LeBron ain't top 5. That's stupid. It's not realistic. You know what I mean?
So speaking of GOAT status, so this is the second time you've been on the show. So the first time you're on the show, we talked about the Pat Mahomes. And since we got all 3 of us on here again, we just talked about the GOAT status, the way your criteria and all that. So it's now Pat Mahomes won his 2nd MVP, 2nd Super Bowl. Has he catapulted to a GOAT status for you for NFL wise, or do you need to see more from him?
No and yes. No, he's not the GOAT. No, he's not the GOAT yet. And yes, I need to see more. Now, he's easily my second vote. He's the second best quarterback I ever seen play with my own 2 eyes. And it's not even like I don't even.
And
have,
the first is Peyton Manning, right?
Absolutely, right. And there's I know how Rashawn feel about his guy, right? So again, and notice I said earlier when I was talking about GOAT for basketball. Football is so different, right? I can't in my heart. I've never been a fan of always giving quarterbacks all this credit for winning and losing, right? And there's so many things I can point to. We saw it this year. Like the only reason San Francisco wasn't in the Super Bowl because their quarterback literally could not throw the ball, right? But other than that, they plugged in 3 different quarterbacks this year and just kept winning. Didn't matter who was under center. They just kept winning, right? It's just so much that has to go right to win football games. We saw, I might have said this on the last show. I don't remember when it was. I always revert to last year's playoffs. I give you both sides of the coin. The NFC divisional round, A-Rod was horrible. Garoppolo was horrible, but somebody had to win the game. You flip it, AFC divisional round, Mahomes was phenomenal. Josh Allen was phenomenal, but somebody had to lose. Nobody can walk away from that game and go, Josh Allen didn't get it done. Josh Allen lost a coin toss is what he did, right? But the record books are going to say Mahomes won and Josh Allen lost. And it's bigger than that, right? Tom Brady's great. Tom Brady's phenomenal. How many games has he won on Adam Vinatieri's leg?
Ooh, 3.
You get what I'm saying, though? Like, so let's just say Tom Brady takes care of his business. He marches the team down the field and Vinatieri misses. Is Tom Brady now less of a quarterback?
I mean,
they'll say that because he couldn't get it done.
That would be said. That would be said in the media because, like you said, the quarterback gets the praise,
right, and
then they get the blame.
Right. I just use that analogy to point out how ridiculous it is that we solely talk wins and losses as for how great a quarterback is. Nobody, like most of us have Barry at worst second or third. I have him as the GOAT of all running backs, best I ever seen. Nobody cares that he never, like, everybody just go, man, the Lions didn't get him no help. Why we don't do that with quarterbacks? Why we don't look at the body of work and how good they were? Why we don't look at the fact that in Brady's time, I'm using him because most people have him as the GOAT, and Montana, those are the two guys. I did a blog on this. Why we don't talk about the fact that those guys consistently throughout their careers played with top 10 defenses? We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the fact that Manning played with a top 10 defense like twice. A-Rod played with it once, and the one time he did, he won a Super Bowl, right? So, like, so much has to go right in football. Think about the Super Bowl, right? Seattle versus New England. What do you remember from that game?
Obviously, the Marshawn, and during that drive, the Javon Kirsten.
No. What about Marshawn?
That they didn't give him the ball.
Didn't give him the ball. So what's the biggest play of the game?
Well, it's the Russ Wilson went through the pick to Malcolm Butler.
Malcolm Butler, Russ, and Marshawn. Those are the three names that come to your mind about that game. And Pete Carroll. But who got a win added to their belt? You get what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah,
that's where it's like the whole wins and losses thing with quarterbacks. Tom Brady's somewhere in my top 5 or so, as far as like that's how I judge players based on what I see on the field. The only thing stopping me from calling Patrick Mahomes, the word that you asked me, is he a GOAT? Time. Like I said in basketball, you do have to do it for an extended period of time. But his first 5 years, dude, unbelievable. Like, put it like this. If you called him a GOAT, I ain't going to argue too hard with you about it. This dude is unreal, man. He's unreal. Like, all before the year, all they talked about was what he's going to do with Tyreek Hill. Nothing but lead the league in passing yards, touchdowns, had the best record in the AFC, win MVP, win AFC championship, win the Super Bowl. That's all he did. That's all he did without Tyreek Hill when y'all asked.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing crazy. That's it.
Nothing crazy. Just be the best player in the NFL. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and win another Super Bowl. I'm going to go to my 5th straight. Like, for those people that like to talk about wins and losses, they like to talk about having deep playoff runs. Imagine being a starter for 5 years and the worst you've ever done is lost in the AFC Championship game. That's his basement. And the difference with him is, and again, I'm only referencing Brady because he's the guy, he's the bar, right? He's the bar.
Pretty much.
For most people, because fans and media have this lazy way of evaluating quarterbacks by he won this many times, Brady's now become the bar, right? Brady's first 2, I'll say first 2. By the third one, he was kind of coming into his own. But Brady was what we call a game manager, right? At that time, Brady developed into something amazing, right? When Brady changed my mind about who he was as a quarterback was when they went and got Randy Moss. I was like, oh, that's what he's capable of. It was almost like he said, oh, I can do this too. Because at that time, Peyton Manning was putting up crazy numbers every year. And Brady was just winning. And it was like, oh, y'all go get me a marquee receiver and watch what I do to the league. And he went out, and it was like after that year, you could pencil Brady in for 4,030. You know what I mean? Like he was.
Yeah.
He's great, right? Mahomes is something different, man. He's just something different. Like if I don't even know, I can't think of a good basketball comparison where it's like, oh, that guy was good, but this guy's different. Where you go, Patrick Ewing was really, imagine if Patrick Ewing was the best center you'd ever seen. And then you saw Shaq. Right? Like that's how I feel about Patrick Mahomes in terms of every other quarterback I've ever seen except for Peyton Manning. And the only thing stopping that is time. Like even like from a talent standpoint, from what they're capable of on the field, I think Peyton Manning was not leaps and bounds, but I always thought he was better than Brady. Right? And you could make the argument, Ray would probably make the argument that he had better weapons. My refute.
He always says that. He always says that. Don't worry.
But you gotta you go back and look at how many guys Peyton Manning made us think were good players.
Austin Collie. Pierre Garcon.
Peyton Manning, Brandon Stokely had 1,000-yard receiving with Peyton Manning quarterbacking, right? That offense in Denver was a bunch of regular dudes until Peyton Manning got there. Like Demaryius Thomas is a good player, but
who heard Julius Thomas?
You get what I'm saying? So and again, if I'm so great at arguing sports, if you told me to argue for Brady, I could flip the switch and do it right now, right? He has his cases. He has his career, his resume ain't lacking at all. But you know how Michael Jordan and LeBron, when that debate goes, people go, tell me why Mike's the GOAT without saying 6 rings. You can't tell me that Brady's the GOAT without saying 7 rings. You just can't. That is the argument. No other metric is like winning is the argument for Tom Brady. The talent, the accolade, like Peyton Manning got 5 MVPs, right? 5 times people thought he was the best. Like, I mean, again, great. Brady could be in my top 5, but to your question about Mahomes, the kid is phenomenal. He is going places. Right? Like that dude, man, he coming for whoever you think is sitting on the top. He come. I could confidently put Mahomes in my Mount Rushmore right now and won't lose no sleep about it.
Wow.
And it'd probably be Joe Montana, Brady, Peyton Manning, and Mahomes. Like that would be my Mount Rushmore, and wouldn't lose a wink of sleep.
Now, I keep seeing some rumors here. Well, from fans, not really from real NFL. Would you like Lamar Jackson on Detroit? Because they say that's like the best destination for him because the Ravens are pretty much going to trade him is what I keep seeing.
Oh, man. You actually, it's hilarious. I was asked this question last night.
Oh, really?
I asked this question last night. Not on a show. A friend of mine who's a Ravens fan. And I always give Lamar a hard time about his deficiencies with throwing the football, right? I think it would be interesting just for the fact of nobody would be able to say he don't have no weapons and nobody to throw the ball to. Because if you haven't watched my Lions, Amon-Ra St. Brown is for real. Right? So, regardless of what anybody thinks about Lamar and what his shortcomings are, the kid is a playmaker, man. He's a phenomenal football player. I've never thought he's been a great thrower of the football, but he's a great football player. He has still some growth, I think, at the position, like playing the quarterback position. To where he can drop back and actually make all the reads and make all the throws. But what he lacks in those areas, he clearly makes up for with talent, athleticism. We're going to get to this later, I guess. I had the chance to talk to Mike Vick, and I asked him about that. And he was talking about coaches now as opposed to taking a guy with that kind of ability and trying to put a square peg in a round hole. These are my words, not his. And force him to play a way that don't fit his strengths. Now coaches are looking at these guys' skill sets and building offenses to fit their skill sets, i.e. a Jalen Hurts, right? A guy can make it all the way to the Super Bowl using his legs when he has to, but then when he needs to, he can throw for 300 in the biggest game of his life, right? So, like, back then, it was when a guy had that kind of talent, it was like, for him to be successful, he's going to have to get in the pocket. He's going to have to sit in the pocket. Why? Says who? When? Where? How? So if Lamar Jackson is on a team that can play to his strengths and design offenses to mask whatever weaknesses he has as he develops those, I wouldn't have a problem with him in Detroit because, again, he's a game changer. He's a game changer, man. This boy, as much as I talk crazy about him, like if he was a Lion, I'd be all behind him, dog. You know what I mean? So,
and I told people the last few days that Greg Roman loves tight ends. He doesn't like receivers like that. And if you see it, his best receiver was Hollywood Brown, and he's really not even a top 10 receiver in the league, and he still won MVP. So if he went to a Detroit with Amon-Ra, and then you have, they have to re-sign DJ Chark if you want your number 2 back, but I mean, it's still a pretty good team. We got Swift. I feel like it's a really good offense for him. It's a youngish team. I feel like they would make the playoffs.
Here's my thing with Greg Roman. Because again, I'm going to use the word dogging Lamar Jackson for the past couple of years with his throwing numbers, right? Like he's always in the bottom half of the league in yards and efficiency and all of that good stuff, right? And Ravens fans will tell me, well, Greg Roman with this cookie cutter offense and he won't do this and he won't do that. And they always say, go look at Greg Roman's history. He's always like this. You know what my rebuttal to that is when you say Greg Roman loves tight ends? as opposed to people thinking Greg Roman can't design an offense to involve his receivers, right? He loves his tight ends. Go look at every quarterback that Greg Roman has been the OC for.
Well, I'm wearing one of them right now.
Right.
Number 7, San Fran.
Right. So I see it as when teams have a quarterback that they feel is limited in what they're capable of doing, let's go get that guy because he can design an offense that will, like I said, will maximize that guy's skills. We will get him to make less reads, right? We don't want him going through 5 progressions, right? 3 progressions, run it. Two progressions, check down, right? Who's the quarterbacks Greg Roman was the OC for? Colin Kaepernick, Tyrod Taylor, and Lamar Jackson. All of which are not known for their phenomenal throwing ability. So when people go, Greg Roman doesn't like receivers. He's never had a quarterback that has shown the capability to, you get what I'm saying?
I mean, I think Cap's like your best one out of it. He did have Michael Crabtree, Vernon Davis on that Niners team, Frank Gore.
Right. You're talking about the receivers. I'm talking about the guy that got to get him the ball.
I mean, Kaepernick had the oomph because he was a pitcher in high school, so he had that fastball.
Kaepernick, right? In his 4 years in San Francisco, 5 years, completed 62, 58, 60, 59, and 59% of his passes.
Well, his last year, though, Jeremy Curley was his best receiver.
Right. So Kaepernick, in his years in San Francisco, threw for 139, 199, 210, 179, 186 yards per game. Again, in a pass-happy era, right? We're throwing for 300 a game. It's like he was throwing for sub 200. Again, Kaepernick, and that's a whole nother conversation. I've never had this conversation with Ray. I fought these youth league coaches, these college coaches, when you got these young, and I'm going to just say these young black kids, because that's usually who it is, young black quarterbacks who are RPO guys who are fast. They're in high school, they're in youth leagues, and they're the fastest guy on the team. So the coach says, we're going to put the ball in his hands because he's the fastest, most elusive guy. We're going to run him like Vic at Georgia Tech, right? That's what we're going to do. Or Virginia Tech. So then what happens? That guy gets to college. And instead of somebody trying to elevate or enhance or hone in on those different skill sets it's going to take to be successful at the next level, everybody just want to win. So they keep utilizing them like that. And then by the time they get to the league, it's like, oh, this guy can't do this, he can't do that. Nobody ever tried to teach him how. They just took what he was good at. They used his legs. He had the ability to throw. Maybe he had a cannon on him, like Mike Vick. He could throw it 80 yards. Don't nobody know where it's going to land, but he could throw it 80 yards, right? We're never going to try to develop those type of skills. We're just going to utilize what he's best at. And then you wind up with guys like those guys are always phenomenal when they start. Lamar Jackson wins the MVP. Then what happens? The league starts figuring out what to do with you. What happens with Kaepernick? He comes in, right, behind Alex Smith, goes 5-2 the rest of that year, goes 12-4 the next year, and then the league figured him out. Like you have to be diverse. You have to be able to win him all. That's what I'm loving about what I'm seeing with Jalen Hurts. He's shown. Because I said before that game, I said, if I'm Kansas City, Jalen Hurts going to have to beat me with his arm. And he was doing just that.
He almost did.
You know what I'm saying? He was doing just that. If I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm playing against Lamar Jackson, he ain't beating me with his legs. If he beat me, it's going to have to be from sitting in that pocket. We going to spy.
You saw that actually this year, Giants-Ravens. Wink Martindale was keeping him right in the pocket and sacking him all the time.
That's where you want him.
Incompletes. Yep.
That's where you want him, right? So until somebody takes the time, and I fought their circles. If you got people around you always telling you, everybody hating on you. No, they're not hating on you. You're not very good at these different parts of the game.
Right.
And until you decide to work on those things and get better, people are always going to defend you this way.
Yeah. Personally, I think that he should be, I think he should go down to Miami. I think that would fit his skill set in a major way.
Is this
Hill, Gesicki?
But wait a minute. Are we saying? Are we thinking that Tua's no longer going to be healthy? Like, do we think he's done?
I don't. once again, we talked about the availability thing. Like, I know Lamar's had his injuries as well, but I just feel like he sat out because he was like, "Look, I'm trying to get paid. Y'all playing with me." I don't. Once again, I don't think it's a significant upgrade. Of obviously, throwing wise, if we're talking about
Man, look,
Tua and Lamar, because Tua is more accurate, obviously. But I just think if you're talking about from a dynamic standpoint, and you're only throwing those 5 to 7 yard hitch routes or whatever, that's in his wheelhouse. And they just take it to the crib.
Who?
I'm saying if you're throwing a 5 yard slant to Tyreek Hill and to Jalen Waddle,
yeah, but that's the thing though. That's the man. Tyreek Hill. Even if you watch him in Kansas City, right? He has his moments where he can take them 5 yard hitches and turn them into 60 yards. But right. Tyreek also get out there and get up under that thing, right? Like if you look, man, I would venture to say while he was on the field this year, Tua probably had the most. You talk about how far the ball traveled in the air. Mm-hmm. Like he was slinging that rock, man. He was looking like an MVP candidate.
Well, apparently he has a better arm than Pat Mahomes. That's what Tyreek said.
Tyreek has to say. Tyreek said some stupid stuff. Like he did an interview not long ago, and they asked him who the top 5 receivers. He was like, "Ain't no top 5. It's 1A through 30. All 30 of us top 5." Like he was saying, he said Shannon Sharp said something like, "It's 30 teams. So you telling me every night?" He said every number one. Just all depends on the situation, man. All these guys talented, and it's like, bro, ain't nobody as fast as you. Like that's
for real.
I mean? Like that's like saying when Calvin Johnson played, everybody was good. No, bro, you can't teach Calvin Johnson like he was built in a lab. That stuff you can't teach. You can't teach what Randy Moss did. Everybody's not that good. Right?
Yeah, I know. I just think, like I said, I mean, obviously, yes, he can. The go route is obviously his weapon, meaning Tyreek Hill, for sure. I'm just saying, if you're just really throwing those quick slants, and that's what you're just saying, create separation, like that to me, and I said Gesicki is not Mark Andrews, but he's good enough to do what Mark Andrews had done. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, Mostert, Wilson, I don't know. I just think that would be crazy down there, honestly.
First off, you talking about giving a defensive coordinator nightmares the night before Lamar Jackson, Tariq Hill, and Jalen Watt, like, excuse me,
crazy,
right? But I would say like all the quarterback carousel that's liable to happen this offseason. Like Aaron Rodgers is probably going to wind up somewhere. Jimmy G's going to be looking for another home. Derek Carr. If I'm any of those guys, I'm packing my bags and I'm heading to the southeast region of the country. Right, I'm going to go play in the NFC South for any of those teams. Because one of those teams signed a marquee quarterback and they're instantly the best team in that division. Whether it's Atlanta, Carolina, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, right? All of them could use a quarter like Tampa Bay still got all them weapons they went to surround Brady with, right? New Orleans is sitting there like Michael Thomas is sitting out. Trust me, they get a marquee quarterback, he'll be right back.
I don't even know if they can get a marquee quarterback because they've pushed Michael Thomas's contract so much that I think they owe him like $54 million this year.
Yeah, that's tough. But I mean, if I'm Jimmy G, I'd go to Tampa Bay.
I would go to the Raiders if I'm Jimmy G.
I'm not facing Mahomes twice a year if I don't. For what?
I mean, Josh McDaniels will cater to him.
Sure. I guess offensively, sure, that makes sense. And like I said, Jacobs is great. Waller's great. Obviously, we know what Devontae Adams has been. Love Hunter Renfro. So they definitely have the weapons.
Y'all missed it.
Look, the Raiders have been the Raiders since 2002.
Jimmy G is not
crazy.
So first off, the AFC West ain't where Jimmy G need to be. Like, because you want to win in that division, you're going to have to score. Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Russell Wilson with Sean Payton. That offense is going to look a lot different in Denver. You got to score some points in that division. Jimmy G's not that guy. Jets. That defense was very solid. They was winning games, and we didn't know who was going to be under center from week to week in New York.
Yep.
Right? Flacco, like Jimmy G could walk in and be the best quarterback on the roster. And those two young receivers they got, man, they had some injuries at running back this year. The young rookie they had, Breece Hall.
Breece Hall, yeah.
That, everybody talk about the Lions and the weapons we got. The Jets, you talking about a team being a quarterback away, and then the team that's always in the conversation, they've been a revolving door at quarterback for 4 straight years now, right? The Colts always have to be in this conversation, right? Like they went from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett to
Phillip Rivers,
to Carson Wentz, to Matt Ryan, like that.
To Sam Ellinger.
Yeah. So, why not look at a Jimmy G or a Derek Carr? But if I'm any of those quarterbacks, I'm not. Listen, man. I mean,
the AFC South would be just as easy as
no.
NFC South.
No, and here's why: the division might, right?
Right.
But there's a possibility. I don't care what division you in, right? If you're in the AFC, come playoff time, there's Deshaun Watson, there's Patrick Mahomes, there's Justin Herbert, there's Josh Allen, there's Joe Burrow, there's who? Like what? No, man, put me over. I want to play Daniel Jones in the playoffs. I want to play Daniel Jones, man.
Yeah.
I want to play Brock Purdy.
Danny Dimes, baby.
Danny Dimes gonna go down to Tampa.
Yeah, man. Like, listen, bro. I did a post on that, right? And that's not even including the guy. This part of this carousel, Lamar. Like the AFC has so much talent at the quarterback position. It's unreal. And you don't get to go out and play defense, but I feel a lot better if I go out and score and put my defense on the field to try and hold the game for me. I feel a lot better against Daniel Jones than I do any of those guys I just named, man. If I'm standing on the sideline and Patrick Mahomes got the ball, I don't feel good. If Joe Burrow got the ball, I don't feel good. You know,
Trevor Lawrence coming too. That's another guy.
Listen, the Jaguars ain't. Yeah, man. A healthy Tua, right? A healthy Tua Tagovailoa. Again, Mahomes is the creme de la creme. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, I think, are like that next tier. A healthy Deshaun Watson, who has a whole offseason. People forget the last time we saw that guy healthy. He threw for 5,000, bro, completing 70% of his passes. People don't remember that, right? And he got weapons over there in Cleveland. So, like, man, that, bruh, you talking about a gauntlet of talented quarterbacks. Like I say, Justin Herbert, like, Russell Wilson's not a top 5 quarterback in the conference.
Yeah,
that's Russell Wilson.
Unless he wake up and revert back to what he was. But
with all the disrespect in the world, the best version of Russell Wilson, I was about to say Westbrook. I might have said that earlier. The best version of Russell Wilson we've ever seen is not better than Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, or Joe Burrow. He's not better than any of those guys. At his very best, he's not any of those guys. Yeah. You throw Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson in the conversation, he can be the best version of him we've ever seen. And he ain't top 5 quarterback in the AFC. Also, Tennessee isn't a horrible landing spot for somebody, though. Would be horrible. Because I don't think either one of those guys is.
They gave all that money to Tannehill. So, I mean, some got to give. Because like I said, he's, and I'll say, we go back to the quarterback thing. I'm like, Ryan Tannehill is always that perfect example in me. You're not winning with him. It doesn't matter if you put what you put around him, what he had. You're not winning with Ryan Tannehill as your guy. Ryan Tannehill's not winning with Kansas City. Say if you replace you put Ryan Tannehill in that Kansas City offense, would they have beaten Philadelphia?
I don't know about that. I know,
right? But that's what I mean, though. Like in the words that you could say not having a quarterback is not everything. I say not having one is, just still one for Kanye.
I would just say we have seen it. I mean, it is few and far between. We have seen it with guys, with lackluster quarterback like Joe Flacco. I don't think very highly of that guy at all. In fact, the Ravens did it twice, right? We've seen the Trent Dilfers, we've seen the Brad Johnsons. No disrespect to your guy, he turned into a GOAT, right? Early Brady wasn't that. Early Roethlisberger wasn't that. Granted, it's a different brand of football now too. Even Eli Manning went into. I will say this though, what just became a very sneaky destination, right?
Where?
Because they don't have a quarterback. They do, however, have Antonio Gibson, Curtis Samuel, TJ
Washington.
Yeah. And they did just get Eric Bieniemy.
What do you think he's going to do over there? Because me and Aaron was talking about that.
What do you think he's going to do over there? Well, first off, that's the first answer to the question right there. who's under center. Because if it's Tyler Heineke, he's not going to do a whole lot. And
it's allegedly Sam Howell. Ron Rivera already said it.
Man, listen, they better go. Like they should be on the phone with everybody. They should be on the phone with Baltimore. They should be on the phone with Green Bay. They should be on the phone with Las Vegas. If any of those guys are available, and Washington can get their hands on a Derek Carr, Lamar Jackson, or Aaron Rodgers, or even Jimmy G, right? Can't be like was better than what they have right now. Like, and I personally,
even your guy would be a good look too.
Golf,
man.
Look,
he's a lot better than I thought. I have to be honest.
I wouldn't be mad if he stayed. Like it's crazy, man. How much flack Golf got. People forget that man was in the Super Bowl 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh well, that was just on the Rams defense. That wasn't Jared Goff at all. That's what they'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had the number 1 offense in the NFL that year. You know what I mean? Like so.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, man, I actually
and scored 54 on the Chiefs or 51 on that Chiefs.
Yeah.
But they went toe to toe.
I hate that he took this job, honestly, but he had to. He had to.
Unfortunately, yeah. I said it on the last episode. I did a solo show, and it's just crazy that you get like the Joe Judge's special teams guy, head coach. I mean, D'Amico Ryans, I get it. Texans, he was there as a player. Got it first time, but then he's like Eric Bieniemy, number 1 offense for the last like 4 or 5 years, or whatever. But this now there's reports saying, oh, was Andy Reid calling the shots? He's not like an enforcer. Shady McCoy's being shady and trying to say that he's just not good. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah,
this guy getting so much slander.
I didn't like that at all. I really didn't. I saw that clip, and I get it because he was in the locker room, but he was giving praise to all these coaches. But I'm just like. He's the same one that would get at Stephen A's and the other black pundits. Even though I said, "Oh, y'all down in the black men," you did the same freaking thing. You did the same thing that y'all talk about. Y'all don't want these pundits to be doing. You could say I didn't see enough to see that he could be a head coach, but I'm happy for him and I'm excited to see what he can do. You can leave it at that. You don't sit there and dog him, talk about, oh, well, son, I don't see it. He ain't X, Y, Z. He ain't that. It's like, come on. I'm like, Shady, what was you by the time you got to Kansas City? You was not that guy when you got to Kansas City at all.
Exactly.
Like you was out there with the heat warmers, saying go team. Come on. I can't respect that. That's weak to me. That's weak.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. And oddly enough, man, this is so twofold. I have so many mixed feelings about the Bieniemy situation because, again, I feel like he had to, based on the narrative that was already being put around his career. Right. He was never going to get his just due up under Andy Reid because the media was always pushing it. Even if you ever watch the Chiefs play, when they showed them on the sideline, they always showed Andy Reid, right, with the board in his hand, calling the plays. So it was always like, well, is he really calling the plays or is he just there? But oddly enough, man, and again, I said he had to do it. He had to go prove himself, right? Or those questions are going to always, he needed to go somewhere. Before he went to Washington, I said he needed to go somewhere with a defensive-minded coach, right? And let it be clear that he's the guy, right, for the offense.
I think that Dan Snyder's going to make him the head coach. That's why they put him as an associate. Because I feel like Ron Rivera is just out, and like this is just it for him. They just don't want to like make that transition.
However, they do that. But the funny thing, man, and be it basketball or football, right? Like if you look around the NBA, man, the Greg Popovich tree is real, right? In college, the Nick Saban tree is real. In the NFL, the Bill Belichick tree is real. Like if you coach up under Bill Belichick, you're gonna get a shot somewhere. And with the success the Chiefs has had, it's just unbelievable that like this guy can't even get a shot, right? Because that's how head coaches are made, right? That's even how Belichick got his break, right? He started up under Parcells. Like you have to, you're an OC. A lot of people thought Leftwich was going to get a shot too. So he should, right? But he should. That for Bieniemy to not even get the opportunity, right? Coming from the success, I mean, because that's what happens, man. When you start winning, people want your players and they want your coaches, right? That's why I think Philly's going to be in for a really rough year next year because people are gonna try and pull
Love it.
They're gonna pick that team apart, right? But it's kind of weird, that the enemy couldn't even get a look just based on guilty by association, right? He's over there with this winning team. Like, you want to bring some of that pedigree, some of that winning cachet, some of that know-how in these situations to your team, right? He's been there, done that for 5 straight years, and you want him to come prove it? Why? Like, I'm just using it because this is a team with two. What do you need to prove in Washington? What did Ron Rivera prove before coming to Washington?
Taylor Heinicke, he's a one-hit wonder.
I mean, they did get to a Super Bowl in Carolina.
Yeah, it's just, I'm just saying, you got to start from somewhere, right? Well, I can't even think of the young kid's name, right? Look at Miami's coach, man.
Oh, Mike McDaniel, yeah.
Yeah, look at Brandon Staley.
Well, actually, so the McVay tree is about to be real too.
You get what I mean? Like, so Rams won a Super Bowl. Who gets the head coaching job the very next year? O'Connell. He's over in Minnesota. Yeah. He's in Minnesota, right? You're the offensive coordinator of a Super Bowl winning team. You get a head coaching job. This guy has to go prove himself again as an OC, but again,
and been on 2 teams that done it. They've been to 3. They've been to 3, but 1, 2, yeah. So,
and Matt Nagy never won one, but he got a head coach just like that. The Chicago Bears.
Yeah, crazy. So I was like, want to switch gears before we get out here because I know we're a little long on time.
This is great, by the way. I'm having a blast.
This has been dope. Like, I was like, it sucks that it took this long for this return to happen, but this has been great. So last year around June, he was able, you had told me about the opportunity, some others about the opportunity. He was able to go down to Atlanta for the ESPN symposium, man. So just speak to how that changed your outlook on the industry and just what it meant as a networking opportunity for you.
So before I answer that question, are you planning on attending this year?
I want to.
Don't say you want to. Say you going.
Well, I'm a teacher, so it's hard. So I want to. So it depends on when the school year ends, but I want to.
Man, forget them kids. Listen to what I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I kept it PG-13, right? So,
right.
Listen, man, I would say the Black Sports Symposium down in Atlanta last year. To that point, and I won't even say my career, in my journey and in my aspirations in this sports journalism world, it was one of the greatest moments for me. It was, like, event wise, it was phenomenal, man. It was more than I could have expected. It's kind of weird because I think we as a society we judge things based off the who's who, right? So the experience is kind of like, well, who was there? I can tell you who was there, but that wasn't it for me, right? I can tell you that Deion Sanders was there. I can tell you I met Eric Thomas in person, and everything you've ever seen in any video from Eric Thomas, he is that in person. If you don't know who Eric Thomas is and you're listening, if you ever watch YouTube and hear the guy telling the story about the guru that took the young boy out to the water, and he's like, if you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you be successful, right? Eric Thomas is that in real life, bro. He walked in the room and changed the energy. I mean, you just felt it. You felt the atmosphere shift. And then it was athletes there. There was an opportunity to do on-air auditions for ESPN. A friend of mine, man, shout out, he probably won't listen to this, but Ty Ray, Say What Said Against Sports. A lot of people don't know this. He met and rubbed elbows with some people, and a couple of months later, man, that dude got an internship at ESPN from that event. It was just, it was great networking. There are a lot of people that I do things with now on cam, blogs, vlogs, podcasts that I met at that symposium. Jamel Hill was there. A guy that I know, Mike Patton, wound up getting an interview with. He got an interview with Jamel Hill.
Yeah, I was like, that's dope. Yeah,
you talking about an opportunity of a lifetime, man. And then I try not to go this route, but it needs to be said, man. A lot of the negative stigmas that are attached to young black men in this country, to be able to see so many young black guys there in a professional capacity and doing the kind of things, or striving to do the kind of things that won't get talked about on the news, right? Being different from the stereotypical things that are said about, our culture and how some of us carry ourselves, like seeing guys there, in they lane, man. You know what I mean? Like just seeing guys being great at what they do, no matter what level you were. And it's the Black Sports Symposium, but it was people there that desire to be agents, people in sports medicine. They had it where it was set up like you had professionals and you had students. Like you would have been a professional, right? Because you have a sports podcast. But there was people there in school, man. Young girl I met, they did like it was like speed dating. They put you in this big room and you got 2 minutes to talk to the person across from you. One side of the table was students, one side was professionals. 2 minutes and then you move. 2 minutes, then you moved, right? And then by the time you got down, the table flipped around. So you might have a professional in front of you too. But it's people that I met during that speed dating that I've done shows just like this with. So again, man, phenomenal experience. I would encourage anybody to go just for the experience, man. It was great. It was absolutely great. I can't wait to do it again. And we gonna be there together, right?
Yeah, that's the plan, man. Listen, I trust me. I was so happy for y'all to see, even just the pictures. Like, even if y'all didn't meet nobody, just the fact that y'all was taking pictures, y'all linked up with one another. Like, it was just all that energy together in the same room. Which leads to the next thing, because obviously, I know you've done some stuff with the Sports Arena crew, and I saw that you had the opportunity to go down to Arizona and work the Super Bowl, man. So, speak on that experience, how it was being on Radio Row, who you was able to run into, and just you kind of alluded to the conversation with Mike Vick already, but just who else did you meet down there, and just how was the experience overall covering Super Bowl?
Unbelievable. Day one for me was like a surreal experience. It was like an outer body experience. I felt like I was watching myself, right? Like that, like on some movie stuff. It felt like I jumped out of my body and was watching myself on Radio Row with the people that were there, right? Day one was kind of like I was starstruck. It was kind of like, whoa, you know what I mean? Then day two, this weird calmness comes over you, like I belong here, right? Like you get in your element and you do your thing, man. Like Radio Row, like you learn very fast. It's kind of like organized chaos. It's a scrum. Like everybody's there with their table set up, and you got your microphone, whatever your setup is, whatever you decided to bring with you. And the idea is for you to be there and get as much content as you possibly can, right? On Monday and Tuesday, like, and you got to be willing to, no can't be a thing. It's like, okay, no problem. And you move on to the next one, and you might catch somebody Monday to get an interview Thursday, right? I don't know if you saw it, man. I think the dopest thing for me and one of my partners, we interviewed Michael Smith. And
dope,
man, look, bro. Like, so I mean, all the content hasn't even dropped yet, which is kind of weird because there's a lot of the questions were geared towards, hey, about the game, but a lot of it was just regular talk, man. So when you say who, the question more would be who not, man. Right. As I'm there, people that I saw and didn't necessarily meet, like Joe Montana was there, Emmitt Smith. I shook hands with him. He walked past. Brian Dawkins was super, super nice. Super, super nice, man. Yeah. The bus, Sean Merriman, super nice. Got to interview him, got to sit and talk with him. LeVar Arrington, super, super, super nice. Like that dude is a character, man. Interviewed him. UFC dude that just won the lightweight title, Jamal, is it Williams or Hill? Young guy just won the light heavyweight.
That's Aaron's for Aaron. No, UFC. I'm not sure.
In UFC, interviewed him, man. He was fun to be around. David Tyree, Shane Vereen, the Barber twins were both there. Takeo Spikes was there doing his podcast.
Yo, I love his show.
So I'm on Radio Row and I'm here. Takeo Spikes is like 5 feet this way from me, right? So because he's Takeo Spikes, all the players are coming doing his show. I'm from Detroit, play high school ball against this guy. Antonio Gates walks up. I'm talking to him. My crew interviewed Ronnie Brown as well. Talked to him. TJ Houshmandzadeh, My guy, Controversy Raphael. My guy, Controversy Raphael, man, he interviewed. I mean, and if he interviewed somebody, I was there, we talked, whatever, but his show, he got to interview, man. Like, just listen, hear these words. At the same time, he's sitting at a table with Earl Campbell and Tony Dorsett.
Wow.
You know I mean, like he said, man, he was like, bro, I'm good. I can go home. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right, facts.
I interviewed Rob Parker.
Okay.
From FS1, I interviewed Rob Parker, and we got to arguing about Steph Curry. That was interesting. Saw Chris Broussard.
He used to be on Click on Detroit, right? That was his thing back in the day.
Yes, Rob Parker's from Detroit. So,
gotcha. Okay, yeah, Click on. Yeah, him and I remember Too Sharp. Yeah, okay, cool.
Man, Unc came strolling through there a couple times. I will tell you this, man, for as much as people say about this, I'm sitting up looking at this thing on my screen right now. Shady McCoy was there. One of my guys, an Eagles fan, he met him and talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Dak Prescott was through there. We interviewed Jake Plummer. Dude's like a hippie, man. Like he's in there with us, he kind of put you in the mind of Trevor Lawrence, like with the long hair, but he's real hipsterish, right?
That's not a shocker though. That's not a shocker.
No, like that's who and what he was.
Yeah. He played in Arizona, played in Denver. That's not a shocker.
if you recall, the drafts with Donovan McNabb and Akili Smith, right? Talking about a lot of black quarterbacks came in at that time. Sean King, he's the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed him. It was weird because he was just sitting there talking to me, and we shook hands, and it was like I said something. And he was like, "Bro, I'm Sean King." I was like, "No, I'm not," because you don't look the same now. Like he's bigger. I mean. But I was like, yo, you want to interview? He said, come on. So they did a meet and greet day one with like the Fox Sports crew.
Nice.
You go up in the room. They all came out on the stage, and then they all went to their stations. And it was kind of like, after a football game, like all the interviews are standing there with their phones. It was like that. Yeah. Mike Vick, Michael Strahan, Howie Long, Terry Bradshaw, Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Johnson. It was...
I would have loved to interview Michael Strahan.
So again, far as like interviewing, right? That part, the part with the Fox crew was kind of like I said, like a post game at a, when the players standing there at their locker and you got 10 people standing around them with microphones and phones in their face, you're trying to get your question in. That's what their thing was like. The interviews on radio was when you could grab somebody, or if you could get their handlers to deal with you. You say, hey, can we get 10 minutes at a time. Like one of the people my crew interviewed, Christian McCaffrey's mom, she's probably more interested than he is. She's big on social media, man. So, I mean, and I could sit here and just keep naming names, man. The funny thing about football players is we see them in their helmets all the time. So then they walk past you and you kind of like, well, that who I think it is? Like we were all in the room and, what's the other cornerback that was really good this year out the rookie class? Not Sauce Gardner, the other one that was really good. Surtain.
TJ Reed?
Surtain.
Patrick Surtain. Yes.
Bro, we were standing there and then somebody was like, yo, is that Surtain standing right there? He was like, yeah, that is him. He was just because it's hard to get to some of those players. My guy standing there, Raphael walked right to him. He's like, hey, bro, came right over to his table and did an interview. Like just like that. It was because a lot of them is like, I get to you in this time, or you got to get with my people and set a schedule and all of that. I interviewed Eric Kramer, former quarterback of the Lions. I interviewed Dominique Raiola. Played center for the Detroit Lions.
He was the center, right?
Right. Here's the funny thing about Dominique Raiola. They give you like these a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, a little bio sheet. They kind of give you like talking points, and they tell you to ask about his son. His son is a junior in high school, and he's like the highest rated quarterback in the nation. Right? Dylan Raiola. Look this up. So I asked Dominique in the interview. I said, "Hey man, if you had to, who would you say your son when you watch him play? Past, present, whoever, who's he around you?" He's like, man, I really don't want to say this because, people, I just don't want to. He said, well, Patrick Mahomes. That's what he says. He's like, Patrick Mahomes. He's like, and it's crazy. He kind of looks like him, right? And I was like, really? Now, both of y'all sitting here, are you on your computers right now?
Yep.
Go to Google and type in Dylan Raiola. Like, it's unbelievable, man. Like, so he tells me, and I'm like, okay. He's like, when we done, I'll show you this picture. And if you look him up on Google, there's a picture of him because he got on a lot of Ohio State stuff. He's already committed to Ohio State. You'll see pictures of him with Patrick Mahomes. Could pass for his son. He could pass for his son.
Yeah.
So keep scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
Keep scrolling until you see the picture of him with Mahomes. If you found his name, just keep scrolling down. You'll see a picture of him standing with Pat Mahomes at like some camp he went to. And it's like, oh man, that could be his son. That could be his son, right? But it's that, yeah, he said he plays like a man. So Brian, like I said, I could keep naming names, man. One of the coolest things.
It's unfortunate. I hope he don't. He told me to commit to Ohio State. I don't know. The quarterbacks don't do too great out of there. I mean, Justin Fields about to change that, but
I swear they don't, man. They do not have a good track record at all.
Yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't go there, but I mean, hey,
you work at a sports arena last I recall, or do work. I don't know how that is, but so you've been around athletes. I mean, Aaron, I'm quite sure you've been around athletes. And as a fan, right, I don't care who you are, you kind of had that moment where you're like, wow, that's such and such.
Yeah.
And one of my homeboys told me, he said, man, you hear his media. He was like, after you interview those guys, man, they're going to treat you way different. He tells me this, right? So I had interviewed Sean Merriman and LeVar Arrington in the same day. And we was leaving the conference center where we were at down in Phoenix. And we're walking down the street and they're sitting outside. It's like this restaurant, but it's like a little sports bar and people are outside. And again, I don't think a lot of people know who they are, right? Those guys are 10, 15 years removed from playing, right? And we're walking past and we didn't speak to them. They spoke to us, right? It was like, it was like, hey man, what's up? Like they reaching out, dapping us up. Like if you were sitting there as a regular person and you didn't know who was who, they treated us like we were the celebrities. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of cool, man. It was like, yo, like they, like once you get past the, like they're regular people. You know what I mean? And that, like, again, that was the second time where I was like, I'm supposed to be here. By Thursday and Friday, my mind was already geared on what I'm going to do different next year. Right. How I would have done this, how much faster I would have been snatching people up and scheduling my interviews, what equipment I want to bring, what questions I should have asked. Like I was so focused on, I can't wait. You know what I mean? And the interviews I did went well. Like that Michael Smith piece is amazing, man. If you get a chance, check it out.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I met, because he used to work here in Boston, and I met him years ago, right before I got to college. Yeah, he was the real deal in 2007. I'm pretty sure he delivered, for y'all down there.
Yes, man.
He's phenomenal. Like the work he did with Jamel Hill for His and Hers, and
that's what we talked about.
Yeah,
that's what we talked about. We talked about that, man.
They were phenomenal. So,
and then bro gave me his phone number. Like, so, like, it was like that, man. It was dope.
Well, unfortunately, we gotta kind of wrap this up. Even though we could be going forever, this has been a great show so far. So,
my favorite ones for sure. So,
yeah, seriously. So we'll start off with final words. We'll start off with you, Hollywood, right first, and then we'll go with you, Raylan, then me.
Hey, well, all right, for those, if it's your first time listening, we thank you for listening this far into the show. Just far as my final words, my thoughts and my prayers go out to my friend Remy Lawrence, who recently just lost 2 family members within a week. And it's like, I know it's taking a toll on you. So Rem, I love you. We're here for you. And like I said, we just, as always, Black Lives Matter, not just when it's convenient for you.
So me,
Yep.
I'm going to go way outside the box. And I promise y'all, nobody here knew this, right? I didn't know he was going to ask me for last words. I was just going to bring this to y'all attention, man, to anybody listening. I read this thing, man, about this guy says that he is a current 8th grade math teacher at Brookings, Boston. Been in education for 10 years, serving in Miami and Boston. A graduate of Dean College, has a strong passion for seeing young people succeed personally and academically. Man, listen, we cover these sports, man, and we go out and we meet these athletes and these famous people, and we put them on these pedestals and we call them heroes. Bro, shout out to you, man, for everything you're doing and making a difference in your community and impacting these young people, man. It is a pleasure to know you. And that's the kind of stuff, when I see it, I'm like, that's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff that don't get, people don't applaud that stuff enough, man. We already know teachers are underpaid and underappreciated, man. And it says you've been in education 10 years, bro. Yeah, man. So, hey, man. Shout out to you, bro.
I appreciate it, man. I really do.
Yeah, shout out to Rashawn Buchanan, man. Hollywood Ray out here again making a difference, man. It ain't easy dealing with other people, kids all day. So
Not at all.
salute,
Not at
salute
all.
to you, bro. That's what I want. Those the words I want. Right there.
Yes, sir.
Salute,
Appreciate you.
That's what's up. As always, we have a YouTube it's already out. Just trying to put some videos up. We're on Apple, Spotify. Get it anywhere you want. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We do a lot more than that. And I've said it since the first episode, before we even started, and I'm going to keep saying it. Black people matter. This has been That's My Sports. I'm hosting, again, Aaron Cass. We got the founder of the Sports Reporter Without Pay, Lynn, and we got, of course, our own Hollywood Ray. Peace.